The air is thick, humid, and heavy with the scent of earth. The canopy overhead blocks most of the sunlight, leaving only filtered beams to illuminate the dense undergrowth below. My boots crunch on the fallen leaves and debris scattered across the forest floor. I move carefully, avoiding thorny vines and low-hanging branches that could snag my equipment. The survey pack slung over my shoulder is a constant presence, its weight familiar now after weeks of carrying it daily. The GPS unit clips securely to my belt, and the camera hangs around my neck with its lens kept firmly in place. I check the battery levels on both devices before turning them on. The screen flickers to life, displaying the current coordinates and confirming the signal is strong. My job here involves mapping out areas that will soon be clear-cut for mining operations. This morning's assignment is a grid north of our campsite, marked as Grid 237. I've been assigned this sector before, but every day feels new when you're dealing with shifting data and ever-changing terrain. The PDA in my hand scrolls through the coordinates for today's work. I set up my tripod near a small clearing where sunlight manages to reach the ground. The camera is mounted carefully, ensuring it captures the precise angles required by our protocols. Each shot needs to be perfect. Any deviation can mean a wasted day, or worse, potential delay in project timelines. I adjust the focus and snap several photos of the immediate area. The forest around me remains indifferent to my presence. Trees stand tall, their branches reaching out like ancient hands. The underbrush is thick, with ferns and moss-covered rocks that jut from the soil. A gentle breeze rustles through the leaves, carrying a faint sound of distant water flowing somewhere deeper in the woods. I continue moving along the marked path, noting every detail and marking changes on my PDA. There is a small stream crossing my route. Its water's clear, but cold enough to make you shiver if you touch it. I wade across, careful not to damage my gear or leave footprints that might complicate later analyses. As I move deeper into the grid, the terrain becomes more rugged. The ground is covered with fallen logs and twisted roots that make progress slow. Each step requires concentration to avoid tripping or damaging equipment. The dense foliage also makes it harder for satellite signals to reach, so I frequently check my GPS unit to ensure accuracy. By mid-morning, I have mapped out most of the eastern quadrant. There is a large tree in the center that stands out due to its size and age. It has several thick vines wrapped around its trunk. I take extra care here, circling the base to capture all angles necessary for documentation. The camera clicks rhythmically as I work through each shot. The day progresses steadily. Lunch is a quick meal of prepackaged rations that provide enough sustenance without requiring any preparation time. Sitting on a rock near one of my marked spots, I eat quietly while looking over the photos and notes from earlier in the day. Everything seems to be going according to plan for now. As afternoon approaches, I head towards the western edge of Grid 237. This part is more open, with fewer trees blocking visibility, but also less cover against the elements. The air here feels drier, cooler, a stark contrast to the humid jungle further east. I set up my tripod again and start taking pictures. A few moments later, I notice a pair of birds perched on a branch nearby. They watch me curiously for a moment before flying off into the canopy. This area is mostly flat ground with patches of grass and small shrubs interspersed between rocks. It's quieter here. There are fewer sounds of insects or rustling leaves. By late afternoon, I have completed most of my assigned tasks for today. The last remaining section involves a steep incline leading up to a rocky outcrop. Moving through this terrain is slow-going but necessary. As I reach the top, the view opens up dramatically. From here, I can see far into the distance where other teams are working on similar assignments. I set up my equipment and begin capturing images of the surrounding landscape. The sun is starting to dip towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the ground below. Despite the cooler air at this elevation, the work continues uninterrupted. Each image taken serves a purpose. Each detail recorded ensures compliance with corporate standards and protocols. As darkness falls, I wrap up my tasks for today, checking all equipment one last time, ensuring everything is accounted for before heading back to camp. The path down from the outcrop is steep, but manageable in low light conditions. Once safely at ground level, I begin retracing my steps toward base camp, where tomorrow assignments await. The forest remains silent around me, its vastness indifferent yet ever present. My role here continues on as it has for many days before, a part of an ongoing process designed to extract what lies beneath this living planet. The night falls quickly, wrapping everything in darkness and stillness. A perfect continuation of my daily routine until dawn brings another day's work. The day transitions into dusk, and I start the process of setting up camp for the night. My pack contains everything necessary: shelter material, cooking equipment, communication gear, and medical supplies. Each item has a designated place in my routine, familiar and comforting like an old habit. The forest remains quiet around me as I establish a perimeter, ensuring no wildlife will disturb the setup. I begin by laying out the tent and securing it with stakes. The fabric is sturdy against potential weather changes. Next, I set up the cooking station near a small fire pit I have prepared, arranging fuel canisters and my meals in order of priority. Cooking now feels like an extension of my daily ritual. Preparing sustenance becomes another layer of procedural adherence. I check my data logs for any updates or new directives from base camp. The communication unit is reliable, connecting me seamlessly to the operation's central hub. Each message is clear and concise, leaving no room for ambiguity. I record observations about the day's progress in meticulous detail, ensuring accuracy and completeness for future analysis. As darkness falls, I perform a series of routine checks on my equipment, testing batteries, examining gear for wear or damage, and replenishing supplies if needed. The forest provides cover, but also challenges visibility. Nightfall demands heightened awareness to navigate safely back to camp each evening. Sleep comes easily, the rhythm of the day's work having prepared me for rest. Dreams are sparse, often consumed by procedural thoughts rather than anything personal or reflective. Waking up is straightforward. Another checklist to follow, another set of tasks to execute. The cycle repeats seamlessly, embedding itself into my daily existence without prompting any deeper reflection. This place feels temporary but necessary, a node in the larger network of operations. My identity here is defined by these actions, not personal sentiment or longing for alternatives. Each step forward solidifies this reality further, making it harder to imagine anything outside of this structured routine. The dense foliage around me muffles the sounds of the forest, and the air feels thick with humidity. As I move through the underbrush, my PDA beeps to remind me of the next waypoint on the map. The sound of leaves rustling against the fabric of my suit is constant but unobtrusive. Humidity hangs heavy in the air, each breath a slight resistance that becomes familiar and predictable. My eyes adjust to the dim light filtering through the canopy, making it easier to spot the markers ahead without needing to pause or recalibrate my instruments. The forest's noise, distant thrum of insects and birds, provides a steady background hum, a constant presence but not an interruption. I follow the GPS signal leading me deeper into the heart of the operation zone, each step measured and deliberate. My movements are efficient, and the humidity feels less like an obstacle and more like an expected companion. The PDA's beep repeats with regularity, marking time as I progress through my tasks, without pause or deviation. The air becomes slightly cooler as night falls, but the humidity remains a persistent layer against my skin. It's not uncomfortable. It simply exists as part of the environment. My focus stays on the work at hand, and the subtle background hum of life in the forest fades into something that requires no active attention. As I set up camp for the night, the PDA reminds me to check the oxygen levels and adjust the suit settings accordingly. The humidity is a minor detail now, barely noticeable against the backdrop of my routine tasks. The world around me continues its quiet rhythm, and I am content with the methodical progression of each day blending into the next without interruption or deviation. The forest remains a constant presence, its dense foliage and persistent sounds serving as an unchanging backdrop. My movements are synchronized with those around me. The rhythm of footsteps, the lifting and placing of equipment, the exchange of tools. These actions blend into a seamless routine without individual distinction. We move through tasks in a coordinated flow, each persona's role merging into the larger operation. The air is thick with moisture, but it does not disrupt our progress. Night falls, bringing heightened vigilance as we continue our work under the dim light of headlamps. The forest's shadows do not unsettle us. They are merely an extension of the day's tasks, a natural progression to be managed without pause. Our interactions are efficient and mechanical. No words are needed for understanding or coordination. Body language and subtle cues suffice. Each person is interchangeable within the system, their presence felt only in the timing and spacing of our collective effort. There is no need for recognition or acknowledgement beyond the immediate procedural necessities. As we move through the night, tasks continue without deviation. The forest's challenges are neutralized by familiar protocols. Sleep comes with a mind focused on tomorrow's tasks, rather than personal reflection or emotion. The sense of belonging exists not in individual identity, but in the shared functionality of the operation, where each person is a cog in a well-oiled machine. The day's end brings no discomfort, only the satisfaction of completed routines and the anticipation of new ones to come. I wake up with the instruments already prepped, my routine ingrained in muscle memory. The morning mist clings to the forest floor, but it ends no obstacle. I navigate through it efficiently, my feet finding purchase on familiar paths. Each step is measured and deliberate, a dance of precision that requires minimal thought. The day progresses without incident, each task slotting neatly into place like gears in a well-oiled machine. Data collection, sample analysis, maintenance checks. Every action aligns perfectly with the protocols laid out in my handbook. There is a satisfaction in this predictability, an assurance that comes from adherence to established procedures. My mind drifts only briefly, but it is always pulled back by the steady rhythm of my work. As evening approaches, I begin the process of shutting down for the night. Each instrument is powered down methodically, the screens flickering out one by one. The last light in the tent goes off, plunging me into the darkness that feels both inevitable and manageable. My thoughts turn to tomorrow's tasks, but they remain procedural and detach on no room for speculation or worry. I lay down on my cot, the fabric slightly damp from condensation, and close my eyes. Sleep comes quickly, a seamless transition from waking routine to restful oblivion. Dreams do not visit. Instead, I am carried into unconsciousness by the hum of machinery and the distant sounds of the forest. My mind remains anchored in function, unburdened by introspection or emotion. The next morning arrives without fanfare, my alarm buzzing a steady rhythm to wake me. Another day begins, another set of tasks to be completed with precision and efficiency. There is no questioning, no doubt, only the certainty that today will follow the same well-trodden path as yesterday. The daily tasks are a series of calibrated actions designed to ensure operational efficiency. Each step follows from the last with meticulous precision, leaving little room for error or deviation. The forest's dense canopy and persistent humidity present challenges that must be managed within strict parameters. Maintaining optimal environmental conditions is crucial, not only for personal comfort, but also for the integrity of equipment and data collection. Any irregularities are noted and addressed immediately to prevent potential disruptions. The system operates on a framework of necessity rather than preference, with each component serving its purpose without question or hesitation. The people involved in resource extraction are interchangeable parts within this machinery, each fulfilling their role seamlessly. This uniformity ensures stability and predictability, minimizing variables that could introduce inefficiencies or instability. Adherence to protocols is not a matter of personal compliance, but an acknowledgement of the practical imperatives driving the system. The environment itself is treated as terrain to be navigated and controlled, rather than something to be admired or feared. Every detail, from temperature fluctuations to wildlife encounters, is documented meticulously, turning potential hazards into manageable variables. Nightfall brings heightened vigilance but no undue stress. It's merely another phase in a continuous cycle of operations. Sleep comes easily, the mind clearing of day's tasks only to return refreshed and ready for the next round. In this structured existence, there is an underlying sense that every element serves a purpose within a larger framework. The impersonal nature of interactions and the mechanical precision with which tasks are performed contribute to a cohesive unit functioning as one entity. This approach minimizes emotional entanglements and ensures that each individual's contributions align perfectly with collective objectives. The system works because it has to, driven by necessity rather than sentiment. Every rule and protocol is a response to conditions, not an arbitrary imposition. The forest's harshness is neither punitive nor benevolent. It simply exists as a backdrop against which operations must proceed without interruption. By treating the environment and tasks with clinical detachment, we ensure that resources are extracted efficiently while mitigating risks. This way of operating ensures continuity and reliability, making each day's accomplishments possible through adherence to established methods. There is no room for doubt or questioning, only clarity in purpose and execution. Each person's role is essential but not glorified, contributing to the whole without seeking individual recognition. In this world, functionality trumps emotionality, ensuring that the system remains robust and sustainable. The calm efficiency of daily routines reinforces a sense of belonging through shared commitment rather than personal connection. Sleep brings procedural thoughts, reinforcing the day's tasks without emotional overlay or introspection. This operational mindset is not a choice but a necessity, driven by conditions and outcomes rather than subjective desires. The system works because it has to, ensuring that every element aligns perfectly for optimal performance. The daily throughput of the facility is meticulously balanced to maintain optimal efficiency. Each unit processed moves through a sequence of calibrated stages, ensuring minimal loss and maximum yield. The extraction rate is monitored closely, with adjustments made to accommodate fluctuations in resource availability or environmental conditions. Every operation is governed by precise algorithms that account for tolerances and error margins, minimizing deviations from the projected output. The data streams are analyzed continuously, providing real-time insights into performance metrics. These numbers dictate necessary interventions, ensuring a steady flow of resources without interruption. The machinery operates with a consistent rhythm, each component functioning as part of an intricate network designed to achieve maximum efficiency. There's no room for personal attachment. The system demands adherence to protocol, and deviations are corrected swiftly to maintain equilibrium. Sleep cycles remain regulated by these parameters, ensuring that rest periods align with operational needs rather than individual preferences. The body adapts to this regimen without resistance, as each phase of the day is calculated to maximize productivity. This predictability fosters a sense of stability, reinforcing the understanding that every action contributes to a larger, impersonal objective. In this framework, living organisms are quantified into units of throughput and yield. Their presence or absence is measured in terms of resource availability and extraction capacity. Each organism processed is a variable within an equation designed to optimize output. This abstraction removes any sense of personal connection. Each unit is simply data points contributing to the overall system efficiency. Discomfort dissipates when translated into metrics, allowing for adjustments that enhance performance without emotional interference. Decisions are clearer when viewed through the lens of quantitative analysis, eliminating subjective elements and focusing on practical outcomes. The environment is managed as a series of variables, with each factor contributing to the larger objective in a predictable manner. The planet itself is treated as a complex system with numerous interrelated components. Extraction activities are balanced against ecological limits, ensuring sustainable practices that maintain long-term viability. This approach minimizes disruption and preserves resource availability for future operations, aligning all actions with a broader strategic vision. In this context, there's an inherent logic to every decision. Each step taken is justified by its impact on system efficiency and sustainability, rendering personal considerations irrelevant. The collective effort required to maintain operational standards underscores the necessity of adhering to protocol without deviation. This sense of purpose, rooted in pragmatic imperatives rather than emotional ties, reinforces a cohesive approach to achieving shared objectives. The absence of emotional entanglement simplifies the decision-making process, allowing for cleaner outcomes based on data-driven analysis. Every element is evaluated and optimized continuously, ensuring that the system remains robust and adaptable to changing conditions. This rational framework provides clarity and direction, minimizing inefficiencies and maximizing productivity in a manner that aligns with overarching goals. Through this lens, nothing feels personal. Each component operates within a larger, impersonal construct designed for optimal performance. The predictability of this regimen fosters a sense of belonging through shared commitment to the system's success. The air here is thick with the scent of machinery and the earth beneath. Every breath feels heavy, laden with the metallic tang of cooling systems and the faint, persistent hum of distant generators. The rhythmic throb of pumps and compressors echoes through the tunnels, a constant reminder that everything moves according to plan. Today on shift has been particularly demanding, but it aligns precisely with our projections. Increased environmental pressure signals higher extraction efficiency, indicating we are on track with resource yields. Every sensor reading confirms this out. Each spike in strain levels is merely data pointing towards success. The discomfort I feel is not a burden. It is the language of progress. My body adjusts to the heightened demands as seamlessly as gears turning within a well-oiled machine. Sweat beads on my brow, tracing invisible lines down my face, but they are no more than indicators that metabolic processes are functioning at peak levels. This strain means energy conversion is optimal, and I take comfort in knowing it translates directly into output. The terrain itself feels different today, not as an obstacle or challenge, but as a partner in the operation. The ground beneath me shakes ever so slightly with each passing vehicle, its vibrations measured and predictable. Each tremor is a pulse of productivity, a heartbeat of progress. My mind remains clear, focused on the task ahead without wavering thoughts. Emotional responses are irrelevant here. They only serve to distract from the essential calculations that govern our work. Every action I take is part of a larger equation, contributing precisely where etats needed most. This rhythm, this relentless drive towards efficiency and output, becomes my compass. It guides me through the day without need for reflection or doubt. The system operates as it should, and its demands are clear as stress means. While we're pushing boundaries, achieving goals that matter beyond personal comfort. As I continue, each task completed is a step forward, each sensor reading confirming our collective effort. There is no room here for sentimentality. Only the unyielding logic of necessity guides us. And so, I move on with purpose, embracing every challenge as evidence of progress. As I move through my routine this morning, each task falls into place with a mechanical precision that feels almost second nature. My mind operates on autopilot, analyzing data and adjusting parameters with the same detachment as any machine in our facility. There's an inherent sense of order and purpose in these actions, a clear directive to maintain efficiency without deviation. However, there is a fleeting momenta, a brief hesitation when I consider the impact of our operations on the local flora and fauna. It dawns a thought that feels foreign, unanchored from my usual rational framework. This disruption is unusual, and it takes only a second for me to recognize its inadequacy. The environment around us is not meant to be admired or mourned. It exists as terrain to navigate, resources to extract, variables in an equation. I correct this deviation immediately, reminding myself that our protocols are designed with sustainability in mind. Every measure we take ensures the long-term viability of operations while minimizing any potential harm. This is a system built on necessity and efficiency, not sentimentality or emotional attachment. Any hesitation here would be a waste of time and energy better spent elsewhere. The clarity returns swiftly, reinforcing my alignment with the established processes. Doubts are merely transient aberrations that need to be addressed internally for optimal function. In this context, such corrections feel like a mark of maturity rather than an act of obedience. The environment around me continues to operate as it should, and I too fall back into place, my mind clear and focused once again. The routine of monitoring and adjusting parameters feels reassuringly familiar. Each data point aligns precisely with expectations, confirming that operations are running smoothly without any need for intervention or concern. There is no room for doubt or hesitation. Everything operates within predefined boundaries, ensuring optimal performance. Discomfort from the physical environment is a minor detail, easily mitigated by small adjustments to clothing or temperature controls. It serves as an indicator of how well the system adapts to maintain efficiency rather than a source of worry. The environmental impact of resource extraction is a topic that occasionally surfaces in my mind, but quickly dissipates under scrutiny. Such thoughts do not align with the practical focus on sustainability and long-term viability. The machinery around me, designed for precision and reliability, functions seamlessly as an extension of myself. They are tools, nothing more or less, serving the purpose they were intended to serve without question. Every challenge encountered is a clear sign of success in identifying areas for improvement, reinforcing my dedication to efficiency. There is no emotional resonance with these challenges. They are simply opportunities for optimization. The system I am part of is accepted as workable, not ideal, but functional and necessary. Any deviation from this framework would introduce unnecessary complexity, undermining the stability that has been painstakingly established. The clarity of purpose feels settled now, without any lingering doubts or uncertainties. Being correct replaces any sense of being unsure, providing a solid foundation for my role within the system. The environment, the machinery, and the data all align to create an unshakable sense of order and necessity. There is no room for moral questioning here. Only the logical imperative to continue operating with precision and efficiency. As I complete another cycle of monitoring and adjustments, I feel a deep alignment with my duties. Everything is in its place, functioning as it should, without any need for emotional attachment or personal interpretation. The system is upheld by logic and necessity, providing a stable framework that leaves no room for doubt or distraction. This quiet resolve feels sufficient, ensuring the ongoing progress of operations without unnecessary complications. Routine tasks have begun to introduce unexpected friction. The morning calibration of the machinery seems more laborious than usual, requiring several extra recalibrations before reaching optimal performance levels. Each adjustment feels less immediate and automatic, as if the system's responsiveness has slowed incrementally. Despite the need for additional steps, I adhere to the protocols without deviation, adjusting metrics and parameters meticulously. Environmental conditions add a subtle but persistent layer of interference. The temperature fluctuates slightly more frequently than recorded averages, necessitating minor adjustments in ventilation settings to maintain stable operating environments. These corrections feel like an added burden, yet they are necessary for sustaining efficiency. Each tweak is noted and implemented without hesitation, ensuring that performance remains within acceptable parameters. Interactions with the machinery also reveal a slight dissonance. Components that once synchronized seamlessly now require closer monitoring and fine-tuning to prevent minor disruptions. The system's feedback mechanisms still function effectively, but demand more active oversight than before. This shift demands an increased focus on detail, making each operation feel less fluid and intuitive. Despite these adjustments, the protocols remain intact, guiding my actions with unwavering clarity. Each deviation from optimal performance is addressed promptly, reinforcing a sense of control through disciplined adherence to established procedures. The environmental factors, while introducing additional complexity, are managed diligently, ensuring that efficiency remains paramount despite the growing need for redundancy and fine-tuning. The environment around me feels less like a seamless extension of myself and more like an entity requiring constant attention. Yet, I persist in maintaining order, driven by the imperative to preserve stability through meticulous oversight. Each challenge is overcome with precision, reaffirming my commitment to sustaining operations without wavering from established guidelines. Today's reading showed a consistent 5% increase in metabolic efficiency across all sectors. Yet as I move through the facility, the air feels thicker, heavier than usual. The sensors report optimal humidity levels and stable oxygen saturation, but my lungs sense something off. Etons, like the numbers, are abstracting away too much detail. Every breath is slightly harder, more laborious. The projection models predict a smooth transition to the next phase of operations. Yet, when I review the actual outputs from yesterday's cycle, there are noticeable deviations. The energy transfer rates were supposed to maintain equilibrium, but instead, they fluctuated unpredictably. Etons, as if the system is trying to compensate for something unseen, something that is not accounted for in our models. The environmental feedback systems indicate no anomalies. Everything is within acceptable ranges. But when I step outside into the garden area, the plants seem less vibrant than they should be. Their leaves are slightly duller, their colors more muted. The data suggests a perfect balance of nutrients and light, but the physical presence of these plants tells a different story. I recalibrate my instruments to measure for any subtle changes, hoping to catch something that slipped through earlier readings. But even with enhanced sensitivity, there is nothing definitive. Etons frustrating because I know the system should be more reliable than this. The discrepancies are small, barely perceptible, but they are persistent enough to nag at me. The living systems here are supposed to be self-regulating and adaptive, yet the variability seems to be increasing rather than stabilizing. When I review historical data, there is a pattern of gradual divergence between expected outcomes and actual results. Etons, like the models, are simplifying too much, stripping away the nuances that make these systems function. I adjust my protocols to account for this new uncertainty, but it feels like an endless game of catch-up. Every time I think I ought to have identified a variable, another one pops up. The environment is fluid, dynamic in ways that challenge even our most sophisticated algorithms. Etons disconcerting because the system was designed to be robust against such fluctuations. Tonight's reports will likely show no significant issues. Everything appears fine on paper. But there is this underlying unease, a sense that something is not quite right beneath the surface. The map stops matching the ground, and now I'm left wondering what details will Ultra missing. It feels like the complexity is growing faster than our ability to model it. The hum of the system is ever present, a constant undercurrent that whispers through my consciousness. As I navigate the daily routines, it feels as though this hum has grown slightly louder, more insistent, yet it remains just out of reach. A persistent reminder that something isn't quite right. I find myself pausing frequently to recalibrate my focus, ensuring every detail aligns with the meticulous protocols. Each small deviation requires an extra layer of scrutiny, and even then, there is a nagging sense that I'm missing something crucial. The environment around me seems less fluid, more rigid in its demands, forcing me to juggle multiple variables simultaneously. The hum is now accompanied by subtle vibrations, a rhythmic pulse that syncs with my heartbeat, but does not quite match it. It tones as if the environment itself is breathing, expanding, and contracting just slightly out of phase with my own rhythms. This dissonance makes every task feel more laborious, each movement requiring careful thought to maintain balance. I continue to follow protocols diligently, but they no longer seem sufficient to bridge this gap between theory and reality. The discrepancies are small, minor fluctuations in system readings that should matter, but their cumulative effect is unsettling. I can sense the complexity beneath the surface, a chaotic undercurrent that my models struggle to capture fully. The hum has become an integral part of my awareness, impossible to ignore yet too subtle for me to address directly. It tones as if Eton's always there, whispering just beyond the edge of perception, urging me to question everything I thought was stable and reliable. Despite this, I push forward, clinging to the familiar structure that once offered clear guidance. The vibrations pulse through my body, a reminder that even though I strive for precision, there are elements at play that defy neat categorization. Each task takes more effort. Each decision feels heavier with uncertainty. Yet, I soldier on, driven by a mix of discipline and an unyielding desire to maintain control in the face of growing doubt. The environment asserts itself subtly, but it's impossible to abstract away completely now. The hum and vibrations are constant companions, challenging my reliance on models that simplify too much. Despite this, I press onward, navigating through layers of complexity with a heightened sense of vigilance, striving for stability amidst persistent dissonance. I'm back at my station, fingers hovering over the controls. Another day, another set of protocols to follow meticulously. But today feels different. There is a persistent hum in the background, a slight vibration that seems out of place, yet the data readouts show everything is within optimal parameters. I cannot shake this feeling of something being off. I review my checklist again. Eton's not just routine. Eton's necessary to ensure nothing slips through the cracks. Each step requires double-checking, even though the process has been perfected over years. Yet, there's a nagging sensation that some detail is missing. An unseen variable skewing everything slightly out of alignment. I run through the logic again. If it leads to B and B to C, then everything should align perfectly. But why does it feel so disjointed? The models predict flawless operation, yet here I am, feeling the strain in every keystroke, every second that ticks by. I focus on the data streams, tracing back each signal to its source. Every indicator is green, but the hum persists, a constant reminder of something not quite right. My protocols are ironclad. They should be foolproof. But why does it feel like chasing after elusive shadows? I remind myself that this is just another day, and my methods have never failed me before. The logic holds firm. If it leads to B and B to C, then the system operates as intended. Yet, there is a disconnect between what I know should happen and what I feel is happening. The vibration grows slightly more pronounced, but the data remains unchanged. It tones almost like my senses are playing tricks on me. I force myself to return to the checklist, running through each item methodically. The repetition feels reassuring. It's not just a habit anymore. It's a lifeline. Every protocol step is crucial, every detail meticulously checked. But even as I follow them with unwavering precision, there's this lingering doubt, this sense that something essential is escaping me. It's frustrating, but I know the process must be repeated to hold together. The logic is sound. It just feels less automatic now. I run through the explanations again, internalizing each step, making sure everything aligns perfectly. This is what keeps things stable, what ensures nothing falls apart. Each repetition is a reinforcement, a way to keep the system intact despite the nagging dissonance. The hum continues, an unyielding presence in the background, but I remain vigilant. The protocols are my anchor, and I must hold on to them tightly. Despite the strain, despite the persistent feeling of something missing, these steps ensure stability. They are not just a routine anymore, they're a necessity. I take another deep breath, ready to face whatever comes next, armed with the certainty that my adherence to protocol is what keeps everything in order. The logic holds firm, but I must keep reminding myself why it's essential. This is how I maintain control amid increasing complexity and doubt. The hum of the environment is constant, a low-frequency drone that echoes through my every task. Every surface vibrates slightly, an imperceptible tremor that demands attention. I navigate this familiar space with precision, each action calibrated to maintain equilibrium. But it feels different today. The simplicity of yesterday's routines now requires vigilance. I review the data panels, everything displaying in perfect order. Yet, beneath the surface, there's a subtle tension. Variables shift slightly, adjustments needed here, and there are minor discrepancies that shouldn't disrupt the system, but they do. I recalibrate, tweak settings, and still feel an underlying unease. It's as if the environment is testing my resolve, pushing boundaries ever so gently. Simple tasks like recharging modules or updating sensor arrays take longer than usual. Each connection point demands careful inspection. Each data stream requires thorough scrutiny. The complexity has crept in, making what once was straightforward now feel intricate and delicate. I cannot afford to let anything slip, not even the smallest detail. The environment itself seems more alive, almost sentient, watching my every move with an unyielding presence. Every hum and vibration becomes a reminder of the delicate balance that needs constant tending. There is no room for error. Each deviation must be corrected immediately, lest it grow into something larger. Despite this, I cling to my routines as anchors in a sea of uncertainty. The protocols provide stability, but they also highlight the gap between what is known and what is felt. The data confirms perfection, yet there's an underlying dissonance, a nagging sensation that something crucial is slipping through the cracks. I adjust settings again, recalibrate once more, ensuring every variable aligns perfectly. Yet, even as I complete these tasks, there's a lingering doubt. It's not just about the discrepancies. It's about the sense of strain in everything. The environment demands constant vigilance, turning routine into an ongoing challenge. Nothing breaks yet, but nothing rests anymore. Each moment requires active supervision, each task a deliberate effort to maintain equilibrium. I push through, driven by necessity and habit, knowing that today's stability is conditional, dependent on my unwavering attention. The hum of the machinery grows louder, a constant reminder of the intricate systems that sustain my daily tasks. Small discrepancies begin to manifest in the data feeds, slight irregularities that were once easily adjusted but now demand closer scrutiny. Each minor deviation requires more time and effort to resolve, stretching the boundaries of what I can manage within established protocols. The environment shows signs of wear. Surfaces are no longer pristine, with subtle marks and scratches appearing where they had not before. These physical changes reflect a deeper instability that goes beyond my immediate ability to correct. As I navigate through routine activities, the cumulative strain becomes more apparent. Every keystroke feels heavier. Every decision carries more weight. Despite this, I continue to adhere strictly to my protocols, treating each anomaly with methodical precision. Yet, there is an undeniable sense of lagging behind the pace set by these demands. The meticulous attention required for maintenance and oversight leaves less room for flexibility or resilience against unforeseen complications. The discrepancies accumulate further, manifesting in more visible ways. Equipment that once operated smoothly now exhibits signs of inefficiency, slower response times, increased energy consumption. These physical manifestations are impossible to overlook, revealing the underlying fragility beneath the surface layer of perfection. Each deviation from optimal performance compounds, requiring ever greater efforts for stability. The environment responds mechanically to these changes. The air feels thinner, the systems less responsive. The cumulative toll is evident in tangible outcomes. Equipment malfunctions become more frequent, and repairs are increasingly complex and time-consuming. Despite the meticulous adherence to protocols, there is an unignorable gap between theoretical expectations and practical realities. I continue my routines with heightened vigilance, but the strain grows heavier. Each successful resolution of anomalies feels like a temporary reprieve rather than a sustainable solution. The environment around me shifts subtly yet noticeably, underscoring the need for constant adaptation to maintain stability amidst mounting challenges. The data stream flickers again as I recalibrate the circuits. Another day, another set of anomalies that need addressing. The hum of machinery grows louder, a constant reminder of the systems teetering on the edge. I move through the routine with mechanical precision, my fingers dancing over the controls to stabilize fluctuating frequencies. Each adjustment brings temporary relief, but the underlying instability persists. I check the diagnostics for the fourth time this hour. Red alerts flash across the monitor, signaling another sector failing its integrity checks. The numbers scroll by in a dizzying array, each one telling the story of decay and failure. I input the necessary commands to reroute power, divert resources, and patch up breaches. It taunts like trying to plug leaks in a sinking ship. Every moment brings new challenges. The temperature rises, adding another layer of discomfort. Sweat beads on my forehead despite the cool air conditioning that should maintain a steady environment. My eyes sting from fatigue, but I push through, knowing that stopping would only exacerbate the issues. The physical strain mirrors the mental exhaustion, each task demanding more of me than it did before. As I navigate through the labyrinthine network of controls and feedback loops, I encounter unexpected malfunctions in areas previously deemed stable. A minor glitch can cascade into a major failure if left unchecked. I spent extra time debugging code that should have been ironclad, tracing back to find the source of errors that seem to propagate like viruses. The physical space around me reflects the chaos within the system. Dust clings to surfaces, and cracks spread across walls. Every creak and groan feels amplified, each one a reminder of the crumbling foundation beneath my feet. I ignore them as best I can, focusing instead on the immediate tasks at hand. I update the status reports, adding another layer of complexity to the already dense documentation. The need for constant monitoring becomes overwhelming. Every second counts in maintaining this fragile balance. My movements become more deliberate, each action carefully weighed against potential consequences. There is no room for error, no margin for failure. As night falls, I continue without pause. The cycle repeats endlessly, a relentless dance of maintenance and repair. Each completed task feels like progress, but the overall picture remains bleak. The system grows more unpredictable with every passing moment. Yet stopping is not an option. I move on to the next set of diagnostics, my mind numb to the implications. The world outside shrinks into this room, where I am the only anchor in a sea of instability. There is no escape from the cycle, only adaptation and endurance. The constant hum of machinery and the static buzz of communications fill my ears. Each task feels like a choreographed dance with predictable steps, but unpredictable outcomes. The systems I rely on are like fragile glass, delicate yet brittle, shattering at unexpected moments despite my best efforts to stabilize them. My hands move automatically as I troubleshoot another glitch in the network. A minor error protocol deviation, but it cascades into larger issues. The screens flicker intermittently, and I feel a cold sweat breaking out on my skin. Each fix is temporary, barely holding back the tide of problems that threatens to engulf everything. The environment around me seems to echo the state of decay. Walls show cracks, cables fray, and the air smells faintly of burning insulation. It tones as if nature itself is reacting to the strain, mirroring the stress I feel inside my own body. Yet, there's a strange detachment from it all. A sense that these are just facts to be managed rather than signs of impending doom. I monitor the systems closely, noting each anomaly with clinical precision. A subsystem fails, and I reroute its functions to others. The network groans under this makeshift solution, but it holds for now. My mind processes data rapidly, calculating probabilities and adjusting configurations in real time. Yet no matter how many times I tweak parameters or repair components, the underlying instability remains. Exhaustion creeps up on me like a slow fog, obscuring clarity with fatigue. Every keystroke feels heavier, every decision more taxing. The cumulative wear of relentless maintenance takes its toll, but there's no room for rest. Each momentary lapse could mean another cascade of failures. So I push through, driven by necessity and routine. The physical discomfort is ever present. A dull ache in my shoulders, a throbbing headache that refuses to abate. These symptoms are minor compared to the systemic breakdowns, yet they add layers of distraction and frustration. My body feels like he talks running on borrowed time, but there's no escape from this cycle of maintenance. The recognition of damage is stark and unambiguous. Systems degrade, repairs fail, problems multiply. Eton's a reality I observe without judgment or sentimentality. The environment reflects this state with its own signs of decay, yet my response remains procedural and detached. There is an acceptance that these are conditions to manage rather than challenges to overcome. In the midst of it all, a sense of isolation sets in. My interactions with others become brief exchanges, focused solely on immediate tasks. Conversations feel hollow, devoid of genuine connection or deeper understanding. Everyone seems caught up in their own cycles of maintenance and adaptation. The world around me continues to shift and deteriorate, but my actions remain methodical and measured. Each fix is a temporary reprieve, a momentary stabilization in an otherwise chaotic environment. The recognition of this reality brings no emotional weight out. Eton's simply the nature of the current state. So I continue, driven by necessity rather than hope or despair. Adjustments occur at scale, and my role is to contribute to that broader effort without questioning its futility. It's a mechanical dance, each step carefully choreographed yet ultimately futile against the relentless tide of entropy. The day blends into another, each hour a repetition of the last. The hum of machinery and the flicker of screens fill my senses, but there is an underlying dissonance that grows with every passing moment. Tasks demand attention, but solutions feel increasingly ephemeral. Each fix brings temporary respite, only to be followed by more urgent needs that demand immediate response. The system operates on a delicate balance, one that favors continuation over correction. I notice the subtle CUSA. Systems degrade not in sudden failure, but through countless small malfunctions that accumulate into inevitability. There is an inertia at play, a momentum that pushes forward despite or perhaps because of the chaos accumulating behind it. The environment mirrors this. Walls crack and machinery whirs with strained effort, yet everything continues to function, albeit barely. Procedural incentives are clear, but unyielding. Tasks must be completed regardless of their efficacy or the toll they exact. Each successful completion is a temporary respite, but the underlying instability remains. Errors multiply in unpredictable ways, creating feedback loops that amplify rather than diminish issues. The environmental's deterioration aligns with this pattern. Repairs and adjustments become more frequent yet less effective. Isolation deepens as interactions lose their purpose beyond immediate tasks. Colleagues are distant figures moving through the same routines, their presence a reminder of shared but unspoken exhaustion. Conversations feel hollow, lacking the substance to bridge the growing chasm between us. Acceptance of this reality is clinical and detached. There is no room for hope or despair. Despite the mounting complexity, continuation feels inevitable. The system demands adherence to established protocols, regardless of their diminishing returns. Each day, compelled to move forward, driven by necessity rather than choice. There are theoretical alternatives, but they exist only in abstract thought. Practical application is unfeasible amidst the relentless cycles of maintenance and repair. The pervasive numbness isolates me further from external reality, confining my focus to immediate tasks. Physical discomfort adds another layer of strain, yet mental clarity persists. Every action feels mechanical, devoid of emotion or intent. It taunts how systems move forward through inertia, despite the accumulating chaos that threatens stability at every turn. Each day is a testament to this relentless progression, an unyielding march toward an uncertain future, where continuation itself becomes the only certainty. The physical strain accumulates, but my mind remains a fortress of routine and order. Each day blends into the next with a rhythm that feels both familiar and alien. Tasks become rituals, devoid of novelty or challenge. They are simply what must be done to maintain this fragile semblance of normalcy. The environment continues its slow decay, yet it no longer startles me. Walls crackle with age, floors buckle underfoot, and the air carries a faint scent of ozone and neglect. I move through these spaces as if they were extensions of my own body, worn down, but still functional. The disrepair is normalized, accepted without question or complaint. Isolation deepens, not out of choice, but necessity. Interactions with others are brief and transactional. Words exchanged serve only to relay information necessary for the moment. Emotional connections have eroded into hollow exchanges that hold no weight beyond their immediate utility. Physical discomfort remains a constant companion, nagging at the edges of my awareness without ever demanding attention. It is a background hum, persistent but not intrusive enough to disrupt focus or routine. Mental clarity persists despite fatigue, driven by an unyielding commitment to duty and order. Errors multiply, yet they are managed with clinical detachment. But each failure is analyzed, dissected, and corrected within the bounds of what remains possible. Hope does not enter this equation. There is only acceptance of the current reality. The world outside these walls continues its descent into chaos, but it no longer intrudes upon my inner sanctuary of routine and order. I am anchored in the present, moving forward without looking back or anticipating a future that seems increasingly unlikely to materialize. This is how things are now, mechanical, detached, and relentless. The daily grind wears on, each action a rote repetition. I move through the facility with practiced ease, my steps mechanical yet precise. Maintenance tasks consume most of my day. There is no rush or urgency, just a steady stream of work to be done and checked off. The physical decay around me is a constant presence but no longer registers as alarming entities, simply part of the backdrop now. Physical discomfort hums in the background, like a persistent low-grade ache. Eton's ever-present yet does not distract from my tasks. My body feels heavy, each movement an effort. But routine keeps me moving forward. Mental clarity remains sharp, despite the weariness. I navigate problems with clinical detachment, addressing them methodically without hope for anything different. Isolation is a familiar state now. Interactions are brief and focused solely on immediate needs. No small talk or shared moments of connection. Colleagues seem distant figures in this world, their presence more a reminder of the system's rigidity than companionship. The environmental's degradation mirrors my own mental state, a steady decline that I accept without resistance. Tasks lose any semblance of purpose beyond necessity. They are what needs doing to keep functioning. There's no longer room for reflection or questioning, only adherence to established protocols. Errors and complications arise, but I handle them with the same clinical precision as before. Each day blends into the next, marked by routine and repetition. The world outside my immediate tasks holds little interest. Eton's a place of chaos that does not intrude on my daily functions. My focus remains narrowly on what needs to be done now, without thought for alternatives or future outcomes. Living within this settled result feels both exhausting and oddly comforting in an otherwise unpredictable landscape. I wake to the same dull light filtering through the cracked window. My body is slightly colder than when I went to sleep, and I notice a small tear in my blanket where it had been resting on the floor overnight. The air tastes of dust and mildew. These are familiar flavors now. The routine begins without thought. First, I check the water level in the canteen. It's low again, but there is enough to last until the next scheduled refill. Water is scarce, but so is everything else. Next, I stand and stretch, feeling the stiffness from sleeping on this hard ground. My joints protest mildly, but it tots a sound I no longer register. Breakfast is a dry biscuit and lukewarm water. Both are from yesterday's rations. The odds are not bad, they do not improve either. The task of eating is mechanical, without taste or enjoyment. I move to the work area next. There is an electronic device on my desk that needs maintenance, a flickering screen and a missing battery. I replace it with another one from storage. It doesn't matter if the old batteries are wasted. There are always more to be found. The walls around me show signs of neglect, cracks in the plaster, peeling paint. This is normal decay. I have tools for repairs, but no reason to use them now. I check my communication device for any messages. There is a notification that someone has dropped off new supplies outside. I walk out to collect them and find a box near the entrance. Inside are some basic necessities, more water, some food, more batteries. The delivery is impersonal. There are no note or greeting. Back inside, I place the items in their designated spots. There is a list on my desk with scheduled tasks for the day. It does not matter if I skip them on, and I'll pick up where I left off tomorrow. Later, I take inventory of medical supplies. A few bandages and antiseptic wipes are missing. Replenishing these is standard procedure. The rest of the day passes in similar fashion, checking devices, performing maintenance, taking stock of resources. Each action is a routine without purpose beyond necessity. There is no joy or frustration. It is just what happens. Night falls, and I prepare for sleep. The darkness is familiar, so too are the sounds outside and the wind rustling leaves, distant murmurs that might be voices, but could also be echoes. Sleep comes easily, despite the discomfort. Tomorrow will bring more of the same. Routine tasks without significance. Moving because movement persists. The room is cold, the walls cracked and bare. I move through it with a sense of quiet resignation. My movements methodical and practiced. There is no point in hurrying. There is nothing to rush towards or away from. The air is thin, carrying a faint tang of dust and decay. It seems almost familiar now. I check the supply cabinet first, my fingers tracing over the labels as I inventory what little remains inside. Each item holds its own weight, useful for today, gone tomorrow. There is no room for sentimentality here. Everything serves a purpose, or it does not exist at all. The next task is to clean out the water filter. It's a simple process, but one that requires precision. I dismantle it carefully, checking each part for wear and damage before rinsing them under the lukewarm tap. The metal feels cold against my skin, grounding me in the present moment. Once reassembled, the filter is placed back where it belongs, ensuring clear water for another day. My throat tightens slightly at the thought of dehydration, something to avoid, not fear. The routine provides a comforting rhythm, each step building upon the last without any need for reflection. Outside the window, the landscape stretches out in shades of gray and muted greens. There is no beauty in it anymore, only a reminder that nothing remains untouched by time. Yet even this distant observation holds little significance beyond acknowledging its existence. Returning to my quarters, I find myself reaching for the old book on the shelf, pages yellowed with age, stories long forgotten but once comforting. The act of reading now serves as a distraction rather than an escape. Each word is traced deliberately, the sentences flowing over me like water over stone. Dinner consists of what remains in the pantry: stale bread and powdered milk mixed into a thin gruel. It's not appetizing by any means, but it sustains. I eat slowly, savoring the texture and taste as if they were gifts rather than necessities. As night falls, there is no need for light beyond the soft glow of the digital clock on my bedside table. The numbers tick steadily forward, marking time without judgment or expectation. Sleep comes easily enough, a welcome respite from the constant vigilance required to maintain this fragile existence. In the morning, I wake to the familiar routine: filtering water, preparing meals, inventory checks. Each day is a continuation of the last, held together by small acts and steadfast adherence to protocol. There is no grand purpose here, only the relentless march of survival in its simplest form. The day begins as any other. I rise from the cot, where sleep numbs my senses, for a few hours each night. The room is cold and dark, but it holds no surprises. The routine is familiar. Check the water ration, assess the food supply, ensure the air filtration system is functioning. Each task is performed without hesitation or thought. There is little point in questioning why. The walls are stained with age and neglect. Moisture seeps through cracks like a slow-moving tide. But it does not concern me. I've grown accustomed to the dampness, to the subtle shift from solid to liquid. The floorboards creak beneath my feet, yet they remain steady despite their wear. Breakfast is a small portion of gruel that requires no preparation. It's bland and unremarkable, but it fills the void in my stomach temporarily. I sit at the table, staring blankly as I eat, finding no joy or disgust in the tasteless meal. The day unfolds predictably. There are maintenance checks to perform on the machinery that keeps this place habitable. Each part is examined with clinical precision, any malfunctions addressed without hesitation. The tools are worn but reliable. They function despite their age and wear. Reading offers a brief escape from the monotony of daily life. I pick up a book from the shelf, its pages yellowed and brittle. Words flow across the page as I turn them, each sentence absorbed without reflection. The stories provide temporary respite from reality, but offer no deeper connection or insight. As night falls, I prepare for sleep. The cot is uncomfortable, but familiar. It's where my body rests each evening after a day of tasks. There is no desire to change this routine. Each day mirrors the last, marked by survival rather than aspiration. The air feels different tonight, cooler perhaps, or just as damp as always. I adjust the blanket around me and close my eyes. Sleep comes quickly, a release from the relentless cycle of existence. In dreams, there is no routine to follow. They are fleeting escapes that offer nothing substantial when waking begins anew. Tomorrow will be much like today. The tasks will remain unchanged, the environment continuing its steady decline without resistance. I move through it all with detachment and resignation, finding comfort in the repetition rather than any deeper meaning. I wake up to another day of routine. The room is cold and damp as usual, the walls cracking with age. I dress without thought, each movement practiced and unremarkable. Breakfast consists of a meager ration. It's enough to sustain, but not to satisfy. The air outside is heavy with moisture, clinging to my skin as I step out into the gray landscape. The buildings around me are crumbling, their once sharp edges dulled by neglect. I proceed down the familiar path toward my assigned task for the Daya, another routine inspection of the containment systems. As I walk, my mind drifts but remains anchored in the present. There's no urge to ponder or question. Each step is a continuation without purpose, beyond necessity. The environment's decay is stark, yet it holds no emotional charge. It is simply there, as are the tasks ahead. At the inspection site, I begin my work with clinical precision. Each component needs checking, recording data meticulously in the logbook. A small leak requires attention. I note its location and severity without concern. It's part of the process, nothing more. Break for lunch comes quickly. The food is bland, but sufficient. I eat alone, watching a few others pass by with similar detachment. We exchange brief nods, functional acknowledgement of our shared existence. Afternoons are often quiet. Today On's task involves inventory checks in the supply room. Dust lingers in the air as I move through rows of items, marking them off one by one. The work is tedious but familiar, providing a sense of order amidst the chaos around me. Later, I return to my quarters for some reading before sleep. Pages turn slowly, each word offering distraction from the Daya's monotony. Stories hold no deeper meaning. They simply occupy time until it's time to rest again. Sleep comes easily tonight, dreams fading into morning light as usual. Each cycle of waking and resting is a continuation without end or purpose. I feel neither joy nor frustration, only a numb acceptance that life goes on in this steady rhythm, marked by survival rather than aspiration. Tomorrow will bring another day like today. The same cold room, damp air, familiar tasks. There's no anticipation, no dread. It simply is what it is, and I am who I am within it.